disease and liver disease are two big things, I guess, that you deal with on a daily basis, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they form a good part of our caseload. Yeah, or a concurrent diseases with other things that we're investigating.
Yeah. I mean, we'll go on to diagnosis in a minute, but what would your description or your definition of kidney disease or liver disease, just in a brief summary, how would you describe, what are they?
So that could take up the rest of this hour, I guess, in terms of defining both of
It's a bit of a mean question.
Yeah, but I guess if we start with kidney disease first, so the kidneys, obviously the body's filters in a large extent. They get rid of proteinous waste products, so they get rid of things that shouldn't really be there, help us to regulate water balance. And we obviously have two kidneys, as do our canine friends, and over our lifespan, our little units, the little filters that are there, the nephrons, gradually get damaged and they die off. And we have a huge capacity. We have lots more than we'll ever need, but as the animals get older, we can see that a proportion of those nephrons die off. And once we get down to about 30% of that value, we can start seeing signs that the kidneys aren't able to do their job effectively. So they're not able to excrete things from the body in the way that we would like. And this is what we call chronic renal failure, or more correctly, chronic renal disease, or CKD, in terms of us not seeing that there's that filtration capacity that we're expecting, and those values start to rise. We see that those toxins have effects, so they make dogs feel nauseous, they start to lose weight, and there's also other effects on the body, so things like protein loss, which causes further weight loss. We can see blood pressure elevations as well, so what we call hypertension, that can cause problems. So that's kind of chronic renal disease. We can sometimes see acute renal disease as well, or acute kidney injury. And that's a slightly different thing. That's usually a reaction to some things, so a toxin or infection, so things like leptospirosis, so Lyme's disease, or heavy metal toxins, antifreeze toxicity, those sorts of things that cause the kidneys to suddenly stop working, and that can be much more difficult to treat. And usually that's where we think about things like dialysis, and that's not perhaps what we're talking about this evening when we're worried about concurrent illness. Liver disease, I guess, is another huge area, and there are lots of different types of liver disease. And we tend to break them down into different areas. So the liver, again, is another filter. It filters the blood that comes from the gut, helps us to sort of metabolize all the things that are there. So all of the building blocks for all of the growth and energy and metabolism in the body all are built by the liver. And the liver detoxifies the blood and takes out all the things that the gut produces. So there's lots of bacterial fermentation in the gut, which is great because it makes things that the body can't make, but a lot of those things do cause the body's issues if they're not filtered out of the circulation. So the liver does all of that work. And the liver diseases that we see are either vascular, so things like portosystemic shunts, where some of the blood comes from the gut and ends up in the general circulation. That's usually something we see in young animals, so probably isn't relevant when we're thinking about arthritis. They can be associated with the biliary tract, so the gallbladder and outflow from the bile ducts. Again, that tends to be infection or obstructive disease, and again, probably not something that we're worried about. So the sorts of things that we think about when we're thinking about older animals where osteoarthritis may be a concurrent issue are things like chronic hepatitis, essentially chronic inflammation within the liver, within the parenchyma, or the sort of fleshy part of the liver.